Welcome to another deep dive, everybody. Today, we're going to look into something really unique.
Yeah.
A story that really flips the script on what it means to be connected,
Right.
especially these days.
Yeah.
We've got all these notes and summaries about this woman, Calamity, and she's carved out a life for herself out in the Wyoming outback.
Oh, wow.
Like, we're talking 45 miles from the nearest town.
Okay.
Real deal. Rocky Mountain.
Yeah.
Live mint. And she's built this whole thriving community online through her YouTube channel, Calamity Girl.
So I think what's so interesting about her story is how she's taken those unique circumstances, like where she lives
Right.
and living with MS, and kind of turned them into these strengths that she uses every day. And it really challenges our assumptions about like what's even possible when we think about building connections with people and community.
Definitely not the typical picture that comes to mind when you
Yeah.
think about, online communities.
Oh,
So
okay.
paint us a picture.
Yeah.
Like, what does Calamity's world actually look like?
Okay, so imagine like 20 acres,
Okay.
this ranchette nestled in this like breathtaking landscape of the Wyoming Rockies.
Okay.
And her closest neighbor is half a mile away.
Wow.
And in the winter,
Yeah.
it's snowmobiles only.
Yeah. That's a level of isolation most of us can barely even imagine.
Yeah.
And then you layer on top of that the fact that she's, dealing with the everyday realities of MS,
Yeah.
which we know can be just a whole host of, physical and cognitive challenges.
Exactly. And she's very open about how MS affects her energy levels, her cognitive abilities. It really requires her to be incredibly mindful of how she's spending her time and energy.
So it almost seems counterintuitive that she would choose YouTube
You would think.
as like her primary way of,
All right.
connecting with the outside world.
Yeah.
You'd think it'd be overwhelming or draining.
Right. But it's really quite the opposite.
Really?
Calamity has really kind of structured her channel in a way that allows her to not just manage her limitations,
Okay.
but to thrive within them.
Okay. So she goes live 3 days a week.
Wow.
Really consistent schedule.
Right.
Cooking dinner with her viewers, playing trivia games, even Family Feud.
So it's not just about passively watching, it's about really being a part of it.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
active.
Yeah.
And it's that consistency that's so key.
Uh.
It provides this sense of predictability routine,
Yeah.
which is really beneficial for somebody that's managing
Right.
the kind of unpredictable nature of MS.
Right.
And it creates this feeling of anticipation and belonging for Calamity and her viewers.
It's making me think about how we often perceive technology as this like overwhelming force,
Right.
this constant source of distraction. But in Calamity's case, it's almost like technology becomes a tool for mindfulness,
Yes.
a way to structure her day and connect with the world on her terms.
That's a really insightful observation.
Thank you.
I think it speaks to this broader theme of intentionality.
It's not just about being online. It's about using that technology intentionally to foster connection,
Right.
community, and even to manage personal challenges.
It's just fascinating how she's adapted to this, incredibly remote environment
Right.
and built this vibrant community online.
Yeah.
It definitely challenges our assumptions about where and how meaningful connections can actually form.
Absolutely. And it brings up this idea of legacy.
Oh, interesting.
Calamity often talks about her ranchette, her cabin, her YouTube channel, all
Yeah.
being part of her legacy.
So it's not just about entertainment or passing the time.
No.
It's about creating something that lasts. That's really a reflection of her values and her passions and the way that she's navigating the world.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, what will our digital legacies be?
That's a good question.
How are we using technology to connect, but also to create something meaningful that will last?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I think those are some really thought-provoking questions. But before we, go too far down that philosophical road, I want to know more about Calamity's world.
Yeah.
Like, how does she make this unusual lifestyle actually work?
Okay, well, I think you'll be amazed by her ingenuity and her resilience.
Okay.
So, for example, imagine hauling groceries several miles by snowmobile.
Wait, she does that
Oh, yeah.
in the winter?
Yeah, in the dead of winter.
Right.
And that's just one example of the many ways she's adapted to the challenges of living in such a remote environment.
Okay, I'm officially hooked. Tell me more.
Okay, so it's not just the groceries.
Yeah.
We're talking like a whole system.
Oh, yeah.
Hauling supplies, chopping firewood, even collecting water.
It sounds like she's turned self-sufficiency into an art form.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's that resourcefulness that lets her thrive in a place that would be
Right.
daunting for most of us,
Yeah.
really speaks to the adaptability of humans.
But let's get back to her YouTube channel for a second. You mentioned that it's structured in a way that helps her manage her MS.
Right.
How does that actually play out in her daily life?
Okay, so think about it this way.
Yeah.
For someone with MS fatigue and cognitive difficulties,
Mm-hmm.
can make it hard to plan and stick to routines.
Right.
But Calamity has turned her live streams into this framework for her day.
Go.
Provides a reason to get up, get dressed,
Uh-huh.
engage with the world.
So it's almost like more than a social outlet.
Right.
It's like a form of therapy,
Yeah.
a way to manage the, ups and downs
I
of her
think
condition.
that's a great way to put it. The structure and routine of those interactions online provides stability and purpose,
Yeah.
which is so valuable for someone living with a chronic illness.
And I imagine it helps combat the isolation, too,
Oh, absolutely.
of living in such a remote area. It's like
Yeah.
having a standing appointment with friends, even if they're miles away.
Exactly. But what's even more fascinating is how she's built a community. That goes beyond just casual interaction.
Oh.
Her viewers aren't just passive.
Right.
They're active participants in her life.
You mean like how they help her choose recipes and
Yes.
play along with the games and stuff?
Yeah, but it goes deeper than that.
Okay.
They offer support and encouragement, share their own experiences,
Wow.
and even help her problem solve when she faces challenges on the ranch.
That's amazing.
It's a real sense of community
Yeah.
through those shared experiences and support.
It makes you wonder if Calamity's story is actually like a glimpse into the future
Right.
of human connection.
Yeah.
As technology keeps blurring these lines
Right.
between the physical and digital worlds,
Mm-hmm.
could this be like a model for how we build community and combat isolation,
Yeah.
especially in like rural areas?
That's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah.
What if we could use technology to create these kinds of supportive networks for people who are geographically isolated? Whether it's because they live in remote areas,
Yeah.
maybe they have mobility limitations,
Yeah.
or even social anxieties.
It's almost like Calamity's a pioneer,
Yeah.
showing us that connection isn't bound by location or limitations.
It's about finding creative ways to build those bridges
Yeah.
and foster belonging.
And she's doing it in a way that's so authentic and relatable.
Absolutely.
There's no pretense. There's no
No.
carefully curated image.
Right.
She's just herself,
Mm-hmm.
sharing her life, warts and all.
It's what makes her story so compelling.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that connection can be found in the most unexpected places.
Mm-hmm.
And her use of technology isn't about escaping or replacing real-world interactions.
Right.
It's about enhancing her life,
Yeah.
creating new possibilities for connection,
Mhm.
and building a legacy
Yeah.
that goes way beyond the boundaries of her ranch.
It also challenges us to think about our own relationship with technology.
Right.
Are we using it intentionally to enrich our lives and connect with others in meaningful ways?
Yeah, are we letting it control us,
Yeah.
distracting us from the things that really matter?
That's a powerful question.
It is.
It's easy to get caught up in like the negativity around technology,
Right.
like social media comparisons, information overload.
Right.
But Calamity's story shows us a different side,
Yeah.
like a more hopeful side.
It's a side where technology becomes a tool for empowerment,
Yeah.
a way to break down barriers, and a platform for sharing our unique voices and experiences.
Speaking of sharing experiences, you mentioned that Calamity often talks about her YouTube channel as part of her legacy.
Yeah.
What exactly does she mean by that?
It's interesting that you mentioned legacy, because when I think about that word, I think about something tangible, you know, something you can pass down. But Calamity's legacy is about this way of life.
Right.
Her story of resilience and adaptation.
Yeah. And, it's more about sharing that.
Exactly. She's not leaving behind just these videos.
Yeah.
It's a documentation of a unique perspective.
Yeah.
What it means to be self-sufficient
Right.
in the digital age. It makes you think about, what are we leaving behind? What digital legacies are we creating?
Yeah.
How are our interactions online shaping the narratives that we'll leave behind?
That's a really good question. And it ties in nicely with something we touched on earlier.
Yeah.
This idea of online and offline worlds sort of blending together.
Right.
Calamity's YouTube channel isn't just a separate thing,
Yeah.
It's woven into her everyday life.
Right.
It's how she connects with people. It's how she manages her health.
Yeah.
Even how she documents the challenges and triumphs of, ranching out in this remote corner of Wyoming.
It's like her online persona and her offline reality have just become inseparable.
Yeah.
And what's so remarkable is that she's doing it all on her own terms.
Hmm.
She's using tech to enhance her life,
Right.
not to be consumed by it.
It's a good reminder for all of us
Yeah.
that we have a choice in how we engage with technology.
Yeah.
We can let it overwhelm us,
Yeah.
or we can use it
Mm-hmm.
to, you know, really create connections and build communities and find meaning and purpose.
And that's what's so valuable about her story.
Yeah.
It's not just about her circumstances or her approach to life.
Hmm.
It's about that potential that we all have
Yeah.
to create something meaningful and connect with others
Right.
and leave a positive mark.
It's inspiring to think that even in these, like, the most remote parts of the world,
Right.
technology can be used to build these bridges and foster understanding and create that sense of belonging.
Absolutely.
And as we wrap up our deep dive today, I think Calamity's story really offers all of us a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
How can we use technology to enhance our own lives,
Yeah.
strengthen our communities, and maybe even inspire others along the way?
I love that.
It's something we're thinking about as we navigate this increasingly digital world.